a very serious task. But I will be focusing on design only, right? So what are the chips and where are we going? Where are we going in the future, right? Future roadmap. You can go through. I'm courteously acknowledging the various others, and what I'm requesting you all is please go through uh, this reference, right? This is a good reference for roadmap. It is called International Roadmap for Devices and Semiconductors, or Devices and Systems, right? The older version is here. This was called International Technology Roadmap for Semiconductors, right? So we start. What is a VLSI chip? We'll deal with this. What is the technology? What is the scaling? And what are we supposed to do as a designer? Some part of it, right? Some terms, the micron, nanometer, technology, minimum feature size, and so on and so forth. And then the technology roadmap, what lies ahead next 5 years, right? And some look at where we stand today, the recent chips for some companies. This is a very kind of a observable discussion today. Like it's not something we have to work out. There is no coding, there is no computation. It is just appraisal. Let us start, right? So a designer has to remember that he is not going to design just your 4-bit adder or 8-bit adder or something like that. That is only for learning. When you go to industry and you stand there on the floor, the chips which you are using in your mobile and your set-top box and everywhere else, they are billion transistor chips, and somebody is designing them. And if you go to the industry floor, then possibly you will have to encounter that. So you are already into the trillion transistor domain. So when you go into industry, it is not like you alone has to design. There will be teams, different companies also. But then the design perspective is it's a big chip. It's a complete system by itself. Set-top box is a system, mobile is a system, and anything, even space or military applications, anything. The basic requirement for large consumer is the, the chip should be fitted into a portable device, right? So you have a oximeter or you have a Apple Watch. So they are all wearable. So they are all portable. Hence, because your battery also is small, so they are portable, very small size required, and their battery also is small, so you should consume very small power per second, per minute, or per hour. So your energy is limited. So you have to design the circuit which functions very fast. The circuit contains trillions of transistors, but you cannot spend the power. You cannot consume energy, right? And of course, you should not charge much, right? So if you understand, these are the factors which disrupt the design process. It is not that they help; they are the challenges actually. So if we go ahead, then the next thing is we want AI. So if my brain says the remote control should go away, I should control my TV, the other fridges, and all those IoT devices just by my thoughts. So you will have the brain on the chip someday. So you have those signaling or something. I don't know how. So VLSI design is actually a synthesis-based methodology, right? We never design from the scratch. The trillion transistor group can never be designed from scratch, right? It's a huge time. So you have to borrow the pre-designed structures and connect them to make up a big system. That's called synthesis. So you take up the small components, join them for creating a big system. It's called synthesis, right? The implementation, the AND gate and NAND gate and NOR gate. So your gates are usually implemented in MOS design, CMOS. That's what you have seen in your analog and mixed signal course, and sometimes earlier or somewhere. You would have seen that the gates will be realized as a CMOS gate. PMOS, CMOS will be used to realize a gate. The gates can be connected there. So the dominant technology is CMOS, but now these things are changing. So what does it mean is we should know how the fabrication is happening. We should know what could be difficulty in packaging and then go for design. What do you take from the design? Packaging. Packaging gives me the pin number cannot exceed some number, 400, let us say. You design your circuit in such a way that you cannot exceed 400 pins. So if you want to design your processor for next generation, 128-bit processor, your input output bus will consume about, you can say 256 pins, besides others. So 400 pins are a very small number for any large design. And this is a constraint. This is a constraint. It may not be exactly 400, it could be 800 or something. It cannot go beyond that. We are still not into 800. I'm sorry. Right? So, and fabrication side, it says that we cannot print below certain width, like 22 nanometer. I cannot print less than 22 nanometer wire. So I have to design in such a way that the 22 nanometer wire can be printed only, and I cannot have a thin wire, and I cannot also have very long wires because delay will be too large, right? So for very thin wires, my delay would be large. And when I'm printing 22 nanometer, the printing is hazy at the edges. So my variability is there. That's called process variability. So our fabrication guides the design. It is called manufacturability. Manufacturability. So design has to be aware of manufacturing. Design has to be aware of packaging. And then only you can go ahead. You should know how your design will be fabricated and packaged. And those constraints you should consider in your design level itself. Right? The applications are huge. Like you have 5G, 6G coming. You already have a wireless. You have very AI dominated with graphic processing unit, the huge workstations and blade servers, and you are streaming your videos at high speed into internet, gigabit or teraflops and so kind of things. And you already have the medical equipments which process your MRI, they use data for your images and so on and so forth. So the requirements are all that. All these applications deploy your hardware chips, without which they cannot compute within a given frame of time. Who enables them? The fabrication. The fabrication is very fast. It offers you lesser and lesser printing dimension, so that you can pack larger number of gates in the same area. So tomorrow, if you are fabricating today with 22 nanometer, tomorrow you have a technology with 15 nanometer. That means in the same area, you can package a double number of gates. So if you have a square of 22, 22, 22 by 22, right? That is a square. Let me change. Let me change. I'm trying to go on the board. And my board is different. So if you have this square, right? Suppose I draw a square. This is a minimum feature size, suppose. I don't know what for we are fabricating, but we are fabricating, suppose. 22 nanometer by 22 nanometer, right? Tomorrow my technology is saying that minimum feature size is not that, it is smaller. It is 15 nanometer by 15 nanometer, right? So what's the area here? I don't know. But one dimension has been reduced by 0.7. Another dimension is reduced by 0.7. So if you consume area A here, the area here, right? The area here A2 will be almost half of A1. Do you know why? Because your dimension is reducing by 0.7 here and 0.7 here. If you take the multiplication of 0.7, 0.7, it is half. So this area required is only half of this. So your transistors can double. If you want to use the same area, then you can put double the number of transistors. See, that is the facility technology, fabrication technology brings in. The bringing the minimum feature size, increasing it, and then we understand that it is going quite well, right? So we come back to our main point. And we see that the software engineering also is very helpful, because when we are designing large systems, large chips, large number of gates, the data for design is is handled by computer. And you need the computer program to verify and design both. For verification, you have seen there is HDL, there is System Verilog, and those programs which are running on the computer. Human being cannot do it. In a similar way, we have software technology where the design data and design process will also be automatic. The human will not design. And in that sense, it is very helpful to have a computer and algorithms which can help in designing. Then to run those algorithms very well, you need good computers. And of course, your design teams are spread. One team is in US, one team is in India. You want to connect them. They are collaborative teams. So internet technology also helps. Otherwise, nothing would have happened that way. The digital system design basically is the system realization. So ASIC is application specific integrated circuit, right? It is fabricated. FPGA also is a fabricated chip, but it is the connectivity is programmable, and sometimes logic also is programmable. So both are fabricated. This is not programmable, but this is programmable, right? So we can have the custom design if you go for the ASIC. And if you say FPGA, it is semi-custom in a way that something is already fabricated without your customer requirement. Customization, fully customization means fully customization means fully customization means the custom design, and the semi-custom means the FPGA, right? Where the customer can still program it, right? The CMOS is the main one, and we have combinational logic and or gate and the combinational components only, and sequential. Sequential is nothing but the combination logic along with the flip-flops, memories, IOs, and a lot many things. The MEMS, the transducers, actuators are realized with MEMS. Then you have bio components also, right? They are coming up very fast. But then this technology of CMOS may not always suffice. May not always suffice. So we must go something to gallium arsenide or even to change devices. So for analog, we are using some different technology than MOS. For a MEMS, of course, we are using much different. And then we have something which is non-CMOS, which we call beyond CMOS, right? And the technology is not MOS. It is either nanowires, graphene, plastic, or molecular electronics, or single electron devices, and so many things. So some terminology. What you see on the slide is a wafer, right? So a wafer is a kind of a vehicle on which we fabricate the identical number of chips. So when you see at a very small square, then it is my system. And when I fabricate many such systems on one wafer. And when I am fabricating, this one wafer is not processed. There are about hundreds of wafers together. In a way, I am having about, let us say, 1000 dies here. It is called die, chip or die. If there are 1000 in one wafer, wafer contains 1000, then I will process about 100 wafers together. So in a way, I am processing about 1 lakh chips together. So my cost of fabrication, the cost of fabrication will be divided by 1 lakh factor. If I cannot do it, then my chip cost will be too high. So you can understand that when they are fabricating, the cost is runs into billions. And if you are not fabricating 1 billion chip, one chip will cost you $10 only when you are fabricating 1 billion chips, because the fabrication cost will run into millions, right? So what is here is let me see, I can erase. So what we see here is some terminologies that way, right? The terminology is micrometer is 10 to the power minus 6, nanometer is this. Minimum feature size is minimum pattern width or pattern gap, anything, either width or the gap, any one thing, which is minimum. I cannot print smaller than that. It's called minimum feature size. The wafer is circular, large silicon disc. The diameter could vary from 8 inches diameter to 12 inches, about a thali size. Chip and die is a small square. This is chip, right? This is chip. And then the chip layout is, before fabrication, the information contained here will be stored by computer in a 3-dimension. And that 3D diagram of colored layers indicating what is diffusion, what is oxidation, what is oxide, and what is, you can say, other materials of interest and polysilicon and metals. That 3D information in soft image form is stored in computer. It's called chip layout. A designer is not supposed to generate the chip and die. He is supposed to generate only chip layout in the last and give it to a fabricator. That's all. So chip layout is the last step a designer can generate. That's all. Another view to the die wafer, right? And this is one transistor in 3 dimension. So you have a source here, the drain at the back side, and this is your gate oxide below. The yellow one is the gate oxide, the green one is the polysilicon connection. The gate oxide is here, yellow, right? So this is a structure. We never do like this. We usually take a picture looking from the top, so that whatever we look in 2 dimensions from the top view is called layout, right? And that top view is stored in computer in 3 dimensions and is shown to us. That's the last step a designer has to do actually, right? Now feature size is minimum feature size. In 2005, this is 2005, year 2005, right? Year 2005. We were into a technology where 90 nanometer was a minimum feature size, but not now. And what we're talking about that is there's a pitch. Do you see pitch here? Pitch is one width and one gap, sum of it. So what is minimum feature size? Half of the pitch. Minimum feature size is either the width of the metal or the separation. The width of the metal is this. The separation is this. Any one of them is your minimum feature size. But pitch is sum of these two. So we take half pitch. Do you understand what I mean right now? So DRAM is a memory, but you can look at the processor, microprocessing unit, right? The minimum feature size was 65. So we could print the metal of width 65 nanometer only, not below that. All dimensions are in nanometer, right? And this is also half pitch. Half pitch means either the width of the metal or the gap of the metal. The pitch is one metal width and one gap together is called pitch. It's a distance, consecutive distance between two layers. So it includes the width of the layer as well as gap between the layer, both, right? That's why we take the half of the pitch, the minimum feature size. This is what we have seen. This is an observation. So from 1974, the Intel chief was there. Intel chief was there, right? The company Intel, which fabricates your processor, the chief was there. He was called Gordon Moore. He observed that every 2 years, our feature size is becoming half. You understand? So what he observed was every 2 years, the feature size has become half. The technology is developing and we are able to print the half the size after 2 years. So if currently today we are fabricating 10 nanometer minimum feature size, maybe after 2 years only we will develop the technology so that we can fabricate 5 nanometer. Maybe not before that, but I don't know for future. But in the past they have observed, right? So the scaling factor was 0.7, right? Scaling factor for one dimension was 0.7 every year or whatever. So they observed that. And it is taken as a roadmap now. That observation now has taken up as a roadmap. People are predicting what will happen after 5 years, what kind of chips will have, what kind of applications will have, what kind of designs will be doing, that kind of a thing. That's called roadmap. The future insight. It is probabilistic. It is just imagination, but it is also dependent on the knowledge, what we can do today. So it is an informed guess. It's not a wild guess. It's an informed guess. So what is the roadmap? It's a best current estimate for the future. For future, right? So the history says the transistor came into 1947, right? It came 1947. The integrated circuit was done in 1957. I think the person here was Bardi, Thomas Bardi, and the person here was Fairchild, and the other person. And then we went for other things, like wafer was this size, and we were doing many other things. In 1950, the Alan Turing was a computer scientist. No, he presented a paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, way back in 1957. And this is really very nice, actually. He did it that way. And what he predicted was turn of the millennium. Like by 2000, by year 2000, he predicted that capacity of computer will be 1 billion transistors, components, and how exact he was. 50 years back he predicted, and it is in a way as if we fulfilled his prophecy, because he predicted, we achieved. That's all. So we have 1 billion transistors right into 2000, by that part. Gordon Moore was what I told you, the Intel chief. It says that the growth is there in the technology, and this is a factor of 2 per year, like it is doubling. So if you look at the 2017 roadmaps for semiconductors, the international roadmap for devices and systems, the reference I have given you, you can go back and read that information. It is very enticing. So for cloud computing, you never have visited, no, the data centers and clouds. They house the big racks. In each rack, they have many boards, and the small, you can say the push-up racks. So this the each push-up rack contains many processors. Those processors were 32 in 2018. Today we have about 50 processors on one board. Not only one board, only one socket. In one board, we have one package. This package will contain 46 core of processors. And we'll have many such boards in one rack. So you can think of a supercomputer or cloud computer. It will have about thousands of computing elements serving you. And that has been made feasible only because we are able to fabricate more and more numbers of transistors and gates into smaller area. That is the only picture that way. And the highest frequency achieved is about 4.5 gigahertz. 4.5 gigahertz that way. And the bandwidth background is terabytes, not small. 6 terabytes at the backplane, board to board communication. In the rack, board to board communication is terabytes, right? So you can look at here, we are here. This is research way. 7 nanometer chip has come out. 7 nanometer chip has come out from Xilinx, from AMD, from Intel. AMD, Intel are competitors, no? And they're using FinFET MOS. They're still using MOS, but FinFET. FinFET is a different fabrication for a gate structure. The gate structure is not flat. No, it is a kind of a finger kind of a construction that way. Who is predicting this is agencies everywhere. In European, we have everywhere we have Semiconductor Industry Association. European, Japanese, Korean, Taiwanese. We even have Indian also. It is called ESIA, Electronics and Semiconductor Industry Association of India. But they all get together and bring out the roadmap. They collect the various experts from industry, from fabrication, from academia, from various research houses. They sit down, they make a different team and predict what could happen in next 20 years, next 50 years. And that is documented. That's what I told you, IRDS. IRDS. So where are we today? Intel has come out with a processor, Comet Lake S. It is i9 processor. It's already out. It's a huge multi-core, Amazon is giving you gaming with Ryzen 4000 processor on the tray. It has parallel threads of computing, 32. The number of processor cores are 16. It is something like 16 processor in a one chip, single chip, that way. The gigahertz frequency is there. You may wonder why it is not increasing to 10 gigahertz or something, because that becomes a microwave. The signal does not travel through the copper anymore. They're all wireless. And we are still not able to handle wireless inside the chip, right? If Qualcomm has gone up and introduced the 5G chips and going for 6G, and they're all AI enabled. They all have neurons fabricated on the chip itself. They're called biochips or neurochips, rather. They all have neuro components. And their operation is 15 tera or 15 trillion operations. 15 tera operations per second. Right? Huge. TSMC plans 6 nanometer next year. 7 is already there. The TSMC is Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturer. They manufacture chips for Apple, Nvidia, Huawei. These are all users of chips. They're not fabricators. Fabricators are different. TSMC, Global Foundries, and UMC, and all those kind of things. The Nvidia also has come up with Ampere, which contains the neurons on the chip, hardware neurons. They call it Ampere AI chip. The ARM has come out with Cortex 55, which has a AI support for extremely low power for IoT devices. IoT is Internet of Things, the end device, very small device in our hands, in our home. All small devices now have a capability of AI. This is very mind-boggling. ARM has made it possible, Cortex 55 ARM. In 2019 also was a eye-opener. See, this is a kilowatt power consumed for this deep learning system on chip by Cerebra. It's a startup in US, right? It comes out with a huge chip which has a deep learning capability. And the one chip area is about 100 square centimeter, 100 square inch, 8 inch by 8 inch is a chip size, right? Almost your pad or mobile. Your mobile is the size which they have made a chip single die, very difficult to handle. If power consumed is 50 kilowatt, you could easily boil your whole food on that, right? 15 kilowatt. You have to be away from it. Xilinx came out last year with 7 nanometer chip, FPGA chips, right? They have 1 GB of on-chip memory. It's a mind-boggling. Intel came out last year with a machine learning chip, right? Nirvana. You can see all those the web. The fabrication process was 16 nanometer from TSMC. Intel also has come out with neural network chip, right? You can see all details there. The Huawei came out with DaVinci chip, which contained the neural network accelerator, neural network hardware. NVIDIA also came up. These are all last year. And what we are using today actually it came 7 years back. We are using today. IBM came with 6 right in 2000. Intel came with i7, which we are now seeing in production. They first came in technology to actually percolate to the ground level. But in research level, they are realized that way. So what do we say? We say that we'll go for CMOS only. Then it's called Moore. We are following Moore, saying that CMOS technology will prevail and we'll go for smaller and smaller sizes. 6 nanometer tomorrow and 5 nanometer to still can go to an angstrom we are not talking about. It's called Moore. But if we cannot do it, suppose we are not able to do it because of some trances, process variability or some kind of fabrication difficulty, then we have to do something else than using non-CMOS, it is called more than not only a fabrication diversification, it is functional diversification also, in the sense that now we have MEMS. MEMS are not digital devices, they are mechanical devices. So we are including non-digital functional diversity. We have different devices also, right? So 2 different dimensions now. Either use CMOS or go CMOS. You can keep doing MOS till you reach to 1 nanometer or 2 nanometer, but it doesn't serve your purpose because you are not able to go beyond this, the analog and passive component. So if you want to realize the biochips, of course we should use some other devices, right? Single electron devices, quantum, and for sensor actuators, more than more. This is more than more. So we have to merge them. So we are here. We are analyzing the system on chip. So this is the more like all CMOS. So we have RF as CMOS. We have the MEMS also in CMOS, compatible CMOS. And of course, this is digital, purely CMOS, right? So the red one is a CMOS purely. The lighter ones are slightly non-CMOS, but it's still CMOS compatible. Change that non-CMOS. The brown one is a non-CMOS. So your RF, the filters are mechanical or some switching, they are non-CMOS. Sensor actuators are realized using some other technology, not MOS, right? And the power MOS also use some other material, less than silicon and so on and so forth. It's more than more. Hence, we go for system in a package because all components which are in red and all components which are in brown cannot be fabricated together because they are not CMOS. They will be fabricated separately, but they will be put together still in a package. So your one package can contain different chips from different vendors. This is what it means, system in pack. If you are doing everything in system CMOS, you have systems on chip, right? Yeah. Somebody want to say something?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, sir. Can you turn on your webcam? Turn off your webcam because it's lagging.
Hello. Yeah, please, please. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I hope. Yeah, it helps now. Okay. If I'm audible, am I audible? Am I audible? Okay. So I'll go ahead. So I'm just completing it just to give you an appraisal what is happening. So if you go for emerging technology more than more, I'm going back. If you go for brown area which is not CMOS, you are for devices you have to go for FinFET, still CMOS, but then you can go for non-CMOS. So this is non-CMOS. If you go for memory, there will be molecular memory or single electron devices, which are not C. You have a quantum cell devices or quantum cell computing or the molecular devices, plastic transistors. And you want to build up the large system architectures, you have quantum computing. IBM and other people have really made much progress on that, right? So these are emerging technologies on architecture level, and we are drifting away from CMOS. That is what the message is. So I just conclude in two more slides, three more slides. This is what we are doing at MNIT. About 10 faculty members and about 100 PG and UG PhD students. We have 40 PhD students and about 60, 40 PG students for VLSI embedded. We have attempted about 4 to 6 chips in the past 10 years. We have industry tools here, Synopsys, Cadence, Mentor. The way you have used the EDA playground is open source. The industry tools are there, where industry standard work is done and chips are actually validated in design phase. These are these industry tools, Synopsys and Cadence. Xilinx is for FPGA. These are called CAD, computer aided design tools, right? CAD tools. They start with your simulation, the way you have done it for system at log, and they go up to the design, synthesis, and verification, and up to testing, right? Sometimes they do take silicon validation support after fabrication. So after fabrication, two things happen. Testing just to find out the manufacturing defects, and after testing, the validation. Silicon is taken up only for functional testing, not manufacturing. Would there be any design bug still existing, right, for that part? So we have workstation, Xeon workstation, not Sun now. Sun are done that way. We have T1 DSL connectivity, 1 Gbps from BSNL, 1 Gbps from NIC. We have embedded system design support with VxWorks from WindRiver. The same thing was used in satellite, Columbia or other satellites for US. We have ARM design environment, KL. We have different boards from small to bigger ones, and we have grants all over the world for VLSI, CAD, and embedded societies. ACM is a association of computing machinery. It has a special interest group on design automation. Design automation. DATC is a design automation technical committee for IEEE. IEEE is another professional body. You should all become at least a member of one of these two bodies, student member or professional member when you grow up. TTTC is a technical committee on testing, right? This is technical committee on VLSI. These are all three part of IEEE, right? Different journals you can search for ACM and IEEE, transition CAD, circuits, VLSI, and magazines, very interesting magazines. The magazines contains less of your mathematics, more of your diagram and the tutorial discussion. It is always good to read magazines for current technology appraisal and knowing what is happening there. So these are good conferences. Top conference is a DAC1, ICCAD. In our area, Asia Pacific, Japan, China, and the Singapore, India, ASP DAC is held. And in our India, we have this good conference, very good conference. It happens in January every year. This time it is going to be held in Guwahati, but it will be e-conference this time. VDAT will happen in August. I think it is in somewhere in south this time. I'm not remembering the place. You can look at and such. The 10th Region Conference is again in Asia. In India, we have Indicon, Indian Conference for IEEE, Indicon, right? This is the Indian Society for Semiconductors, IESA, and we have another society in India which governs the all activities of the SIE. Thing. References for your further reading. I will just apprise and stress that you at least go through the second one. Definitely. Second one, definitely. So, I'm still not over for today because what I am looking at is some starting in that domain of synthesis, right? So let me take that up. What I'm up to it is I'm projecting it first. Let me project it first. So we have just seen earlier that there are synthesis efforts, design efforts. So as a designer, what we have done till now is the paper pencil way and hand design. And of course, for the gates or even we need the computer help to hold on the data, and let alone for the 1 million chips or something. Fine. What I mean to say here is for design, I will need the computer help, but computer cannot work. Computer cannot work. It has to work with what it can be told to do. So we have to tell to computer what is to be done. When tell a computer what to do, I must provide information so that information is given in terms of model. So if you are feeding your digital circuit 4-bit adder to a computer, what do? You write a SDL program, Verilog program. So Verilog program is a model for your paper pencil design, 4-bit adder. But that is also a middle level representation. The basic model is what Verilog compiler will make into it itself, inside. Invariably, that will be graph, right? So everywhere for design, we take help of the graph to hang on the information about design. So every design, whether it's a combinational logic circuit or a sequential logic circuit, will represent graph and hang on the information. This may seem little oblivious to you, but this is what we're going to do now. So from that point of view that we are designer, we have to take help of computer for design. Then I must say I am into computer-aided design. Fine. I am into computer-aided design. So if I take the CAD, right? For a CAD, I am feeding some data and getting the out, right, from a computer. But computer cannot understand. So we have to make this fellow intelligent enough. So we have to write good programs, and programs usually follow the algorithm. So we have to now write good algorithm which can actually handle the DC circuit, minimize its size, and provide me automatically the layout of the chip. Did you understand? Let me go ahead. Can you?
Sir,
Yeah, somebody.
it's a lot of screen lag, sir. We're still
Yeah,
seeing the
yeah.
first slide. We're still seeing the first slide.
Okay, okay, okay. Let me check. Let me check.
Okay.
I will reshare. Right? So, are you able to see the slide saying outline of part one?
Not yet, sir. Yeah, now it's visible.
Slide number 3 of 39. Is that okay? So I will keep announcing the slide number I am following, so that if there is any problem, I can rectify.
It's on
So
2
I am
now.
at 3 by 39, slide 3. Okay. So what we are looking at this time is basically computer aided, and now has come as synthesis. I will describe my specification, and my computer will give me the whole design automatically. And who has to make the computer intelligent? Me. So now I am computer aided tool right now. Along for next 2 days with me, you will all be computer tool, CAD tool designer, not digital designer. Did you follow me? So now onward for next 2 days when you are with me, you are not digital circuit designer. You are one step even further. You will be now designing the CAD tool, which can automatically design the given circuit, rather synthesize other than design. Let me not say design, synthesize. Synthesis is nothing but it's a API provide very abstract information to the computer. It can fill in the details, that synthesis, and a CAD tool can do it. Am I okay here? I have shifted to slide number 4. This, if I am able to cover today, it's okay. If not, then I am looking for this. The one automation for your combinational design automation or combinational design. I can clear here the context and the perspective. What are you all doing for combinational optimization? If a given bull, how can you realize that with as little gates have gone through the K-map? Say yes or no. All of you have gone through the K-map method, where we try to realize the AND OR circuit with minimum number of gates. Am I okay here? And the kind of another method is Quinn-McCluskey method, a tabular method. So if I'm talking about tabular method, I'm coming back to slide 4 slide. If I'm talking about the Quinn-McCluskey method, I will try to automate it, right? I will try to automate it. So that is the last one which I have targeted for this slide set. Let us start with the appraisal. What is a computer-aided design, or what is synthesis? What a computer is supposed to do a first, right? Let us define those. I'm at slide number 6. So I'm looking for what are the algorithms in CAD, then the existing model. Models are nothing but on the specification information. Okay, let us say, what is the design flow? You would have gone through this interaction in last many days. System is right. We have a spec here. Then we go for architectural design, which is RTL. The 4-bit adder is a box. The register as a the multiplier as a box. Then we have a logic. Everything converted into digital gates, AND OR gates, everything. Either flip-flop or all of them is a logic level. A computer has to translate this RTL information into gate, right? Then the AND OR gates can be detailed by their CMOS equivalent transistor connections. Okay. Level. I mentioned figure of CMOS in the last slide. So if we look from the top, we can see one transistor area, and if we can arrange for all such transistors in digital logic as a floor area, it's called physical design, layout. So if you go for architecture to logic translation, it is called architecture synthesis. If you go from logic to physical design, it is called logic synthesis or layout synthesis, right? Layout. So if I am able to achieve RTL from spec, it is architecture synthesis. From architecture to logic, it is logic synthesis, and so on and so forth. So this is architectural synthesis, this is logic synthesis, this is layout synthesis, right? I'm at slide number 8. Am I okay? So system spec is nothing but defining the limits of what size should be, how much frequency I want. Architecture values, how many nodes, how many registers, so on and so forth. This is slide number 8 still, but next frame. Functional design is a kind of flowchart method of describing your computation. So if you have a function to be realized, let us say adding 2 numbers, you make a flowchart in A, B, add them up, and so on and so forth. So we'll write that this is input A, then you say input B, then you say after that I add A plus B and put them in C, and then C is out. So this way, if I describe my computation where each box computation takes place in one, it is called flow chart. It is also called algorithm state machine because it's an algorithm, right? It is also called algorithm ASM. Right? This is the computation we have to do. We can translate this information, read this flowchart, and convert that into slightly hardware. We have RTL. Right, we have RTL, and those RTL components, if we further refine, we can write Boolean expression. So for 4-bit adder, I can write 4 output Boolean functions, 1 for each output, 4-bit, and the input is 9-bit. 2 4-bit numbers. What I mean that will be absolutely the RTL. Before logic, we'll start from RTL and come to logic. The register level information has been transformed into now this Boolean expression can always be realized in the form of gates, right? It's a logic synthesis. So this is circuit design. The Boolean expression converted into minimal area digital circuits, and we convert this into transistors. And for each gate, I have a layout, physical layout, right? So this is one gate, second gate, it is multiple, and I am looking for the top. This is my chip floor plan. Chip floor plan. It is called layout. It is a two-dimensional top view how it could look like. The small squares here are layout for gate, each gate, multiple transistors. So each of these may contain multiple transistors. We can realize that. No? Fine. After this, this is fabricated and packaged into a pins and chips like that. So this complete cycle, right? So this is architectural design or architectural synthesis, RTL synthesis. This is logic synthesis, and this is layout synthesis. Only three factors are important for us to understand. For all these three steps, we take the help of computer. So we do computer-aided synthesis, right? So for synthesizing, for detailing, we write algorithms to detail the information, and computer does it for us. The algorithm is converted into C program, and computer runs it. Only thing is we have to provide them input-output. So we have to provide them the system specification. Computer will give you RTL output, RTL circuit output, right? So when computer is running a program that runs on the basis of algorithm design, these algorithms are called architectural synthesis algorithms, scheduling binding. Logic level also, I convert the ALUs and flip-flops into the gates, right? That way. And then I go for layout. I'm on slide number 9. I can skip this because you all know this semi-custom and array and FPGAs. I'm skipping this. What's important here is we realize that at design level, we have to model the input description. We have to activate our computer to detail, and along with detailing, it must minimize the cost, the number of gates, and the circuit should be in such a way that they work faster and they work on low power. It's a very tedious step. Very tedious step. And validation you have done earlier, the design verification, so design phase. We will remain here only. Testing, you have taken some feeling today. Professor CPRK gave you some feeling. So when chip has been fabricated, this is a wafer. It's called wafer level testing. So for each wafer, each die will apply patterns and test whether die functions correctly. After testing, right, we go for packaging. So this is this kind of a sequence. After design, we go to fabrication. After fabrication, we go to testing. And after testing, we package it as a package. So what is now main job? Now for next 2 days, we'll discuss this only. How to synthesize, how to detail the specification, right? So we have to carry the information as a first hand. We call it model. And we need some algorithm steps so that this model can be detailed. It's called synthesis. That's all. I will just discuss with you, and then only we'll go to the some kind of thing that way. So at the architecture level, you have seen the behavioral description, no? Summation, addition, shifting. At logic level, you will have the connection of the gates. At geometry level, you have the blocks, layouts, and the wires in between. 3 very abstract representations of your design. So my design on this slide is represented in 3 different versions. Right in the early stage of the design, I have behavioral and architectural. In the middle time period, when I'm 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, I have converted my whole design into logic connections somehow by doing hard work. And finally, when I'm on the last stage, I have to give it for fabrication. I will convert all gate layouts into geometry level information. Right? The design through computer actually has to take care of all these 3 stages. That's all. How to do it? Writing algorithms for it. Basically, now you with me, we will be studying the algorithms to convert this description into logic and this description into layout. I don't promise you this for a short time, in this short time, but I do promise some peek into these algorithms. How to convert these RTL description into gates, connection of gates. We'll do that. So this is another view to look at. This is a behavioral view. I'm sorry. This is a behavioral view. Behavioral means you write the expression A equal to B plus C, right? Structural view is when you connect the components. So this behavioral view should be converted into structure. So when you say A equal to C plus C equal to A plus B, you have to have a block which is plus adder, and A and B come into it, and C is out. This is structural view. Behavioral view is C is equal to A plus B, right? Structural view is you have a hardware, a structure to do the addition. This is structural view. Physical view is like how your buses are running, input buses, output buses, and we have a layout here. Actual gates and their layout, how they look like from the top. It's called physical view. Physical view. I repeat, B is behavioral view, S is structural view, and P is physical view. A designer is supposed to go through this in the clockwise direction. A behavioral view should be converted into a structure, and slowly the structural view should be converted into a layout so that it can go to fabrication. Right? So this is a behavioral view, what I was just talking about. So this is a behavioral view, the computations or expressions. So when you convert them into the structure, this simply means that I have a multiplier, I have an adder, right? I have a memory to store the variables, and all of them are controlled. This is very important. The control is very important. There is a controller in each processor, which is called instruction decoder. A processor controller is called program control. It is inside the instruction decoder, right? This is architectural view here. So if you have behavior of your state machine, finite state machine or state diagram, I can convert that into the structure. The state diagram, you can always have Mealy-Moore machine structure with flip-flop and commission logic. You can always convert that, right? So this is architecture, the big components. This is all logic level. Similarly, we have physical level, right? Physical level. So let us come back now and now ask ourselves, for my behavior, like earlier, the computation, A equal to B plus C or C equal to A plus B, how do I hang the information, right? How do I hang the information? So if I am having a RTL structure, like I have a ALU, and I am saying that A is applied here, B is applied here, and C is out. What can I do? I can analyze this. What is coming to A, what is coming to B, and how is C taking place? So after analysis, I will say C is equal to A plus B. I'm able to achieve this. This is called analysis. Given the structure, I'm trying to understand its function. This is analysis. The reverse process, given the function, realize the structure, is called synthesis. Right? So how will you hang this information function C equal to A plus B? Right? So let me go back to my board. So if you remember, I have gone to my board. Accidentally, I think I have closed. I'll come back to it. Is the green board visible? So I'm starting with one thing, which is like if I'm writing something as a C A plus B, and I'm required to find out how does it translate into structure. So this is for me a model, a specification. So what is a good model to understand this? A graph way. I will have a one graph vertex which represents this plus, right? which represent this plus, a graph. And then I will say A comes here, the edge, B comes here, an edge, and C comes out here. Is that okay? I call it model, typically a graph model. Is it okay? So this is my graph model for my computation. So I'm showing the data is flowing. Data A is coming here, data B is coming here. It is flowing through addition, adder, and C is out. Hence, this is called data flow graph. In short form, it is called DFG. So a DFG is nothing but a directed acyclic graph with vertices as operations and edges as data dependency. If many of you have read the postfix and prefix notations, it is exactly that. For any expression, you can write the prefix postfix notation or a graph for that. So if you go for the infix notation graph for any expression, you invert that graph. That becomes DFG, data flow graph, right? So I just wanted to apprise you data flow graph, and I'm coming back to my old slides. So we were here, and I was telling you about the data flow graph, right? Data flow graph. So with data flow graph, which is the input, and I had to realize the detailed RTL circuit, the reverse process what I was saying here, the reverse process of what I was saying here, right? From this expression, I had to realize this hardware. The expression I will take always the data flow graph and realize the RTL connection. It is called synthesis. It is called synthesis. This slide has a learning that what is architectural synthesis. It is realizing the architecture from the expressions. Is it okay? The architectural hardware from the expression. We started with the expression, data flow graph. Then the model for that is flow graph, and we get connected components. What components? What components? The components are many. These components would be either ALU, the muxes, the registers, the encoders, whatever the combination components. And for sequential, there will be registers and flip-flops and flags. So this is there now. You can revisit this graph again and say that from behavior at architecture level, I am going to physical one. It's called architecture synthesis. In a behavior Boolean expression, I am going to get connection. It is called logic synthesis. At circuit level connections, transistors, I am going to layout. It is called physical synthesis. That's all. These three syntheses, we must learn how a computer can do. I don't promise you the physical design. I promise you this somewhat and somewhat this. If Amit takes any one of them, I will focus on only one of them, right? Only one of them. And that too is to be done by computer, not by manual way. We are not going to do it. Let us say, for example, what is involved. So at this point, behavior, architecture. Let's take an example. Somebody is asking me to add n numbers. Do you understand? Each number is 8-bit. So the problem given to me is add 8-bit n numbers. Do you understand? I have been given n numbers. Each of the number is 8-bit, and I have to add them up, maybe to find the average of that. Right? How will you add? This is the graph I can represent. I will take first two numbers out of n, add them up. To that sum, I will add the third number here. And the summation, I will add the fourth number. and so on and so forth. Another number will be added here. What is the disadvantage? This is time equal to 1. This time equal to 2, 3. So how much time I take? N minus 1, because I have 2 here. Do you follow? I'm trying to compute how many adders I am using and how much time I require for solving this problem. So how many adders are needed? Only 1. Because I am using only 1 each time, right? So in first step I am using 1 adder. In second step, I call the same adder and use it. I'm using 1 adder only. These red lines denotes now the time boundaries. Are you following me? I have only 1 adder, but the time required is n minus 1 steps. N minus 1 steps. Do you follow? So this is a modular comparison. Before converting this model into a hardware, I must optimize still here itself before conversion. So a synthesis step is made up of 2 sub-steps. The first is detailing, the second is optimization, minimization. So here itself, can I minimize the time? Can I finish this addition in less than n minus 1 steps? Anybody can think? How to finish this addition in less than n minus 1 steps? Yeah, you can use as many adders as you want, right? So I can use infinite number of adders, and somehow I have to use and get some good time, fastest time. Certainly, the given type of adder adds only 2 numbers at a time. So to add the n numbers all together, I need n by 2 adders. And I will generate the n by 2 different numbers. This is the picture. So here I am feeding numbers 1, 2 and n. A1, A2 array. An contains the data. An is the last data. I add all together, but only 2 numbers at a time is fed to the adder. I need n by 2 adders here. And my outputs are n by 2. To add n by 2 outputs, I need further half of those adders. And to add those half of those outputs, I further need half of those adders. So my number is geometric series n by 2, n by 2 square, n by 2 cube, till I get number 1, n by 2 power m. This becomes 1. So I have the first step n by 2, second step n by 2 square, third step n by 3 square, mth step one adder only. What is m? What is m? I have written that n upon 2 to power m is 1. What is the value of m? What is the value of m? Log of n. So now number of steps involved are 1 to m only. If I get the value of m here, it will be log 2n, log n. Just do it. So log m means if my n is 1000, 1024, log n is 10 only. I am going back. In my earlier circuit, the number of steps required are n minus 1. In my next circuit, the number of steps required are m only, which is log n. If n is 1000, m is 10 only. Use improvement. Use improvement. It is 1 by 10th fraction. In this case, what I have done is, I have realized another scheme for doing the same thing, but number of adders required are large, n by 2 adders, and time is very small. only 10 steps, 1,000, right? These kind of variations I have to do. It's called optimization, right? Optimization. I will now replace each of these adder vertices by physical addition, physical ALUs, right? But if you look at here, my first n by 2 adders and the next n by 4 adders, they don't need to be different. Once my work at the first step is over, all n by 2 adders are free. So I can take n by 4 adders from there. I can reuse them. So my maximum number of adders required are n by 2 only. Right? But n by 2 also is good number. Before going through this scheme, the earlier scheme, we went for only one adder. But time required was too large, isn't it? Here we have gone for larger number of adders, n by 2. But the time required is much less, log n, isn't it? Okay. So this is not all. We have to actually realize all these components and keep the designs with us. If you are wondering what are these are n-bit components. You must have a 2 to 1 mux where data input is n-bit. Each of these two data is n-bit. Each of the one output is n-bit. All of these are n-bit components. They're not simple components. Comparator is an n-bit comparator. Encoder decoders are n-bit. Mux, demux are n-bit. Each data is n-bit now, not 1 bit. Right? And this is something different. We must have the fixed point, integer operation units, and floating point operation unit also. If you're not able to follow this, doesn't matter, don't bother. But just see that you read a good book where we can realize all of these as n-bit components. One of the good book is J.P. Hayes. J.P. Hayes. Hayes. J.P. Hayes. So other complex alternate data paths which are not available easily, we have designed them earlier. They were not available earlier, but now they might be part of your chips. These are already built in the chips. The FFT, the DCT, the other kind of thing. So we say that all of these can be realized in hardware. All of them can be realized in hardware. Right? We'll discuss this hardware. It's very useful for us for scheduling algorithms. No? Okay. So let us synthesize a hardware for this equation solver. What is this equation solving? The equation is solving this within the variation. X varies from 0 to 8. And all initial conditions are 0. Let us do it quickly, very quickly. How do you write y double prime? It is the double differential 3x or del x, del y, del y, and 3y. If you look here, and for a time moment, assume that the differentials are available somehow by magic. This equation represents only multiplication and addition. So there are 2 multiplications involved here, and overall 3 additions involved here. So to solve this, if I am already available with differentials, how do I compute differential? Let's presume it's available. Somehow, magic. Then for this equation, I need 2 multipliers here. 2 multipliers and 2 adders to add these 3 numbers later. So, or if you want to do it fast, it's a different matter. So here I need 3 adders and 2 multipliers. I can do with that, and I can draw a circuit for this. Right? Before doing that, let us go through what this equation represents and how to apply the forward difference method. The forward difference method to solve it. The equation is repeated in the first line. In order to have a magic computation for dy by dx, let's presume that dy by dx is u. If we put dy by dx as u here and change this also, the equation will turn into a linear equation, first order linear equation, right? This is a good indication to us. Linear equation, it can be solved by forward difference method easily, right? Because these differential need to be replaced by the differential only. Right. So if we look at this equation, which has come up from here, after putting u equal to dy by dx, then can I open it? We will do it later. Meanwhile, from 1, I get the third one. From 1, I get the third one. Is it okay? dy by dx is u, and u is change in y with change in x. Change in y is y later and y whatever previous. So yl minus y is y latest value and y earlier value, right? So we can achieve this third equation. Very straightforward. Very straightforward. If I expand this third equation, this will come out. Yl equal to y u plus dx, u dot dx. We have got one expression now. Second is, this equation should be converted into other equation, right? Let's do that. And here, if I see this equation, I can replace double differential by du by dx. I'm obtaining the sixth one by fifth. So double differential is replaced by du by dx, and if I compute du by dx here, this will be du by dx. This will become du by dx by definition, right? So first term becomes du by dx. The rest of the terms are here. Right. So if I do that, double differential replaced by du by dx replaced by the difference and the expression, then how do you see it, right? So my fifth equation is coming from the upper one, the first, the immediate to fifth one question. So the equation. So I'm getting from this this area this equation, right? UL is so if I convert this into a simple expression, I get this. UL is u minus 3x more, right? So do you want some explanation here? These are slides are well meaning. Their meaning is quite well understood. If you want me to do something ahead, I will do it. So can you, given this, can you write the last line for any equation? Yes, two things. You must put u equal to dy by dx and convert these two. Right. So we have now got an expression here. Let us go ahead. I have got these expressions now. The differential equation was given, but I have got these expressions now. What are these expressions? Showing you the computation, how it happened. So to increment x, this is the only way I can write. X is x plus dx, or you can write delta x is x later minus old x. The same thing here, right? Same thing here. Delta x here is difference of two x values, x later minus x now, right? So this becomes x later minus xr equal to whatever data you want to put. Huh? Okay. The next one is coming from u equal to dy by dx. the eighth one, right? And the middle one, the seventh one came from the previous the equation, the expression there. So ui equal to u minus 3xy plus 3y dx is obtained from the previous slide, last equation. Right? So let us go ahead. How can we connect this? Do you see these are the computations? I can do it with the graphs. Fine. How do we compute this? Adder. One side dx should come, another side x should come. What's the output? XL. Right? Okay. The eighth equation. Right? So let us take the next question. YL, y plus u dx. See, this u is not there, so I have to take u first. So u and dy should be given to this. It will process and give you output. Right? So to have YL, I have y here, or rather, I'm sorry, not y here, u here, and dx here. Both are multiplied. After multiplication, I have the addition of y. This is a compact equation for y equal to y plus u dx. This is u dx, and temporary y is available there. Right? So we can arrange for this another graph. So for 4 of them, I have a graph. Right? Do you identify this? For this expression, we need 3 multipliers. So we have this, right? So for this expression, okay. So you can do this in your spare time. I think the time is 1:30. It's quite a saturation time. I will take up from here tomorrow. You try to convert these equations, replacing each multiplication and each addition, subtraction by a vertex, and arrive at this. This will be our data flow graph. A computer will accept this, convert this into hardware, and give this to you. This is the output of a computer. Is it okay? The conversion we have seen paper pencil way in earlier days, Dr. CPRK and other effects. I will also do it from you, for you. But this is a target now. From this DFG, or rather from the specifications, I obtain the DFG, I synthesize DFG, and obtain the hardware, RTL. So this is behavioral synthesis. That's all. Right? So logic synthesis will start next time. Till then, you please convert this into this. Right? Slides are there. You try this, and we'll see it later. Tomorrow. Fine. Any questions you have? Although I have taken just description, we'll do some examples tomorrow. Right? We should do some examples. Examples tomorrow. Any questions?
I had some questions regarding the timings.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, this is not related to the whatever was being taught today, but I was concerned about having 2 classes in consecutive manner, that too during lunchtime. So maybe we can schedule the classes. One is before the lunchtime and one is after the lunchtime.
Yeah, you can do that.
So that we can, have lunch and put our full concentration for both classes.
Okay. Your suggestion taken. Okay.
And also, like I wanted to know till when Ravi Kumar sir will be taking those extra classes, or is it part of this module or something like that?
These are
Because I cannot
part of your
understand how it
design and
fits.
verification. No, this is design verification all mixed. System Verilog is a language which we took as a
Yes, sir.
module 3. Module 4
Yes,
is
sir.
your design and synthesis. So
Yes,
there
sir.
is no hard and fast deadline, the divide line that way. As I told you today also, design is
Yes.
always followed by verification. So
Yes,
they're
sir.
two hand in hand. So what he has actually taught you is actually exemplification of what I am telling you now. He already
Yes,
has
sir.
taken some modules, connected them, told you how to connect them. And what I am going to tell you is, if you have some level of information, you can
Yes,
take
sir.
computer help to convert that into details, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
if he is carrying tomorrow, then we'll have extra period tomorrow, some extra time, and
Yes,
the
sir.
next modules will be all standalone, right? Module
Okay,
5,
sir.
6 will be standalone.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I was quite concerned that we are having 2 classes every day. That is one thing, and it is very difficult for me to arrange my
Timing
schedule
is a
around that.
problem. Yeah, I understand. I understand. The 3 hours is not a problem, but timing is a problem. It runs into the lunch.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand. Yeah, sure.
Yes,
So
sir. So
any
that is
problem
one
from
concern
my?
that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, no problem. Your decision taken, sir. Okay. Any other questions for this? Okay, so we start tomorrow and do some examples for RTL synthesis and for logic synthesis and see what are the critical things. And maybe if time permits, day after tomorrow, we will take up algorithms which computer can follow what we do. So an algorithm is a replica of what we think to do. So the thing is, we first try to solve a problem on the paper pencil and try to make computer learn that through the algorithm. That's all. Okay. So we meet tomorrow and go ahead with today's